Hello, and welcome back. Today, we are going to be talking about inking. So, just to recap, we talked about shapes, then we went on to putting them together, then we went on to sketching out and not worrying about how clean it looks. Doesn't matter if it's messy lines, it's fine because in the inking, it is time to clean up those lines. So, remember what I told you last week where the secret is in your elbow, right? So basically what you want to do is when you draw your lines to try to make them as smooth as possible, what you want to do is when you grab the pencil, not move your wrist, right? You're not drawing with your wrist. You're drawing with your arm and your elbow. So you'll make lines with your whole arm like this, not so much like this. Okay? Like that. Nice and smooth. So, let's show some examples of that and let's kind of start playing around with inking lines. This is where the lines get pretty. Alrighty. So, remember last week we talked about sketching, right? So, we're kind of somewhat sketching, but we're mostly just focusing on that elbow bending. So, if you look over here, right? So, this is your hand. Whenever you hold a pencil or pen or anything, right? You tend you tend to bend here, right? And you're still kind of gonna bend there for small adjustments. But what you really want is to use your whole arm. You're going to swing it back and forth slowly, right? You're not gonna like flick the pencil across the air, but you're gonna move it slowly, right? So with that kind of does clear that. All right, so for example, I'm bending at my elbow. So what I'm going to do is make a curve. And you see how smooth that curve is? Now let me try to make that curve only using my wrist. And I stop because my wrist can't bend that far. All right, but you can already tell how not good that line is, right? You want a smooth line with a nice bend of the arm, like a lever, right? Now, what if I wanted to make it straight, right? That's kind of where now my wrist comes in, right? I'm going to bend the elbow, but I'm going to use my wrist to try to keep it in a straight line. So just a small movement, a little moving of the wrist, but most of the time, it's my whole arm that's moving. The whole elbow, the arm, the shoulder, right? Nice and smooth. See? So we're kind of going to do the same thing with doing the lines. So let's go ahead and clear this. Let's hide this. And let's open up this guy. This is our test teddy bear, right? How did I make the test teddy bear? Glad you asked. Remember the shapes? When we put the shapes together and we use circles? I just did a circle, circle, a circle, right? I just did a bunch of circles for the test teddy bear. Oh. All right. We just did a bunch of shapes, right? A bunch of circles, boom, teddy bear. So now we're going to go, I drew lightly on my paper, right? That's why the lines are nice and light with my pencil. And now we're going to ink, like with a pen, right? Hence the name ink. So let me pick a pen. And actually, let me pick a color because I don't have. There we go. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our movements, right? Use our arms, and you're going to follow the lines. Oh, I almost forgot. Okay. Another thing is, if you're right-handed, for example, it might be easier for you to make a curve like this than it is for you to make a curve like this. Everything's with practice, of course, and you can always overcome it, but this might be a little harder to do than this if you're right-handed. And of course, the opposite, if you're left-handed, this might be easier to do than this. So don't be afraid to turn your paper, right? Don't be afraid to spin it around. So if we want to, turn the paper around on the table. That way you can get the curve that's easier to do for you. There's nothing wrong with turning the paper around. So for me, it's easier to make this oval shape like this than it is for me to do it like this, right? So I'm going to turn the paper and make my oval shape. And then because I'm right-handed, it's easier for me to do this, right? So I'm going to use the paper this way to do this line. Nice and smooth and stop. Same thing here. Now this is the tricky part, right? There's a nice big curve here. I would like to do this one, but remember, it's easier for me to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the paper so that it's easy for me to do this. Then I'll turn the paper, or actually I already have it here. I'll go ahead and do this. Do this line, stop. Do this line, stop. Turn my paper, because now I have this curve right here. And for me, it's easier to do it this way. So I'm going to grab that. Oh, I didn't get it right. If you feel more comfortable doing the inking with a pencil instead of a pen, at least for the beginning and practicing, right? Then do that. Draw lightly with your pencil and then draw a little harder with your finishing lines. That way, if you mess up, you can erase it. I can't. This is gonna be a little tricky, but let's just go for it. Okay. Do the circle for the eye here. Color that in. Color this in. Right? Oh, let's color this in. Why not? Why not? Let's do this ear. I'm going to move it closer to me because it's a sheet of paper, right? Let's pretend it's paper. We're just moving the paper around so that we're comfortable making these lines. Alrighty. Oh, see that? Because I was trying to go this way. I was trying to go this way, but it wasn't working out for my hand because I used mostly my wrist, right? So I kind of didn't follow my own rules. So let's erase that. And try that again by turning the paper. That's better. This one, that's a pretty good loop. Let's see. I think what I'll do is I'll start it. I'll start it this way, stop here, and then turn my paper so I can do the other way. So I'll start it, turn the paper around, and then go this way. So I can keep my lines pretty smooth, right? Pretty smooth. So if we're done, right? We did it with our pen, not a pencil, right? Or a marker or a crayon or whatever you want, right? And you made these lines nice and light with your pencil. You can use your eraser and erase them. All right. So even though I've been drawing for a while, this is still not perfect. I might want to change all of this a little bit smoother, these corners. But you guys get the idea. You get the idea that the inking is the last thing you do after you have your pencil work and everything's beautiful and you're happy with it. And you cleaned up all the ugly lines, and then you make the nice, clean, pretty lines. And that's how you do it, right? Remember, you're not bending a lot with this. You're mostly bending with this. Okay? It looks like the bear is raising his hand. That's funny. Well, let me undo that. Practice your lines. Work on getting those clean, pretty lines. Remember, sketching, then pretty lines. Ugly lines before pretty lines. And then you'll get better and better as you go. All right. So as we saw, we drew our teddy bear, lined it out, and that's basically inking. You're using ink and putting it on your drawing. Inking. Now, you can do this with a pencil. The idea of inking is just you want to finalize your lines. You want to take the sketch that's really rough and little by little clean it up, clean it, and boom, nice clean lines. And that's basically inking, right? But when your lines are nice and clean, you can go ahead and trace over it with a pen or a marker. Use your eraser, erase the lines. You have inking. So that's the idea. Okie doke. So make sure you practice your inking. Make sure you're using your arm, your full arm, not just your wrist. You're using your arm, right, to draw. That's going to help you guys make smoother lines. And keep practicing. Stay with us next week, because next week we're talking colors. What colors make other colors and how to put colors together. So should be pretty good. And that should be, I'm thinking, important, right? So shapes, sketching, inking, coloring. The full thing. All you need. See you next week.